Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great show today. You know, everybody that watches the show, you know that we love health. I mean, whenever we sit around, whenever we're talking, it always goes back to conversations about health, physical health, spiritual health, mental health, and we love it. I mean, especially now coming through this pandemic, so many things have happened to so many different people throughout the world. Well, health is more important than ever right now. And everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to know about it. Everybody's reaching out to the leaders in the field, the experts that have been keeping us healthy for so long. So, of course, we went through the Rolodex and we were able to invite Dr. Kathi Perry on the show today. And she is the owner of Health by Hands Wellness Center. And let me tell you, when it comes to health, I mean, you see Kathy's testimonials, you see what she's done over the past 20 years as a practicing physician. You're going to be very amazed at what she does. Kathi, welcome to the DotCom magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I look forward to our conversation here in the next few minutes.
It's so great. I mean, earlier when we were talking, you said you're a one-stop shop for health. I love that so much. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet before we get into it, because we have so many questions about health and what you're able to do to help people. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet and tell us about Health by Hands Wellness Center.
Well, Health by Hands Wellness Center came into being 27 years ago when I graduated from Chiropractic college at the age of 41 years old. So if anybody can do the math now, you know how old I am as well. And basically, we wanted to create a place and a healing environment where people could come and that they would be listened to, that they would get lots of information about their body, because our cars come with more information than what our bodies come with. And each and every one of us is an individual. And so we like to help people write the manual for their bodies. Over the years, we have, thankfully, thank you, God, had a wonderful opportunity with lots of people that have come to us from all over the United States. And we have had successful outcomes in many of those cases. And in the ones that we haven't, in many of those cases, we've been able to help them find the right place for their own healing path. So we want everybody to be the absolute best that they can be. And the name Health by Hands came because we do health with our hands, and there's more than just me here. So we have plural hands. And so that's how the name came to be.
Yeah, Dr. Kathi, I love it so much. As you mentioned, people from all over the country come to visit your clinic. I mean, it's really awesome what's going on. You call it Beyond Chiropractic. You know, that's really what you call it as part of your practice. So let's get into that. What do you mean Beyond Chiropractic? What's included in that?
Well, my license, so that I can touch people, is in chiropractic, and I've been blessed with some of the top healers in the world that have mentored me, totally unsolicited, just walked up and gone, hey, I need to show you this, or whatever it was. So that's been an interesting path. However, the Beyond Chiropractic means that chiropractic and acupuncture is just like this much of everything that we do here. So we go way beyond chiropractic, although that is my belief that the brain and the nervous system are what control many functions in your body. But we have an all-round body, mind, and spirit approach to things. I believe that anybody that has chronic pain has a certain amount of depression, just secondary to what the chronic pain might be. And so we also help them find out what the root cause of that might be as well. We're into root cause resolution. We practice functional wellness, and we go beyond wherever we need to go just in order to help our patients get better.
Yeah, it's so great. Of course, you're a best-selling author. You have a book called Defying Death, The Road to a Quality Life. It's about, pro wellness. But I want to talk about it. Defying Death. I mean, it's a great title. Everybody wants to defy death. So I know it's hard to lay out in an interview, but what are some of the keys? Like, is it about nutrition? Is it about mental health? Is it about exercise, what's the thing? I mean, how do we defy, death? How do we defy aging? How do we all get a little bit younger?
Well, I think, in many ways it is nutrition. What we eat is what our body becomes. And so good, clean, pure water, and lots of it. We're about 70% water in our bodies. Good food, organic if you can afford it. Certainly things that are in their natural form, real food, not in boxes, bags, or cans. Processed foods have a lot of chemicals in them. Learning to read labels when you're shopping is a big thing with my patients, as well as, if you don't move it, you lose it. So I think that everybody needs to keep moving and doing some sort of extra motion every day, even if it's like going in your kitchen and doing a push-up off of your kitchen counter or a tricep dip or something like that. You just have to keep moving. And from wherever you're at right now, there's always room for one more step and one more little thing that you can do and incorporate into your world. I don't like to overwhelm people in the beginning. I like to give them pieces of things that they can do and do easily, and then hold them accountable for those things if they need somebody to hold their hand.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Of course, people that watch the show, they know that I've spoken about my personal chiropractor who's really saved me, and I love it. And, he's done such a remarkable job. Of course, what you're doing at Health by Hands Wellness Center in Alvarado, Texas is amazing. One thing I love, and we read about it, is that when someone comes to your center, they get welcomed by some furry friends. And, we're big dog lovers at DotCom magazine. Let's talk about that, because that's kind of an interesting, unique way that you get to introduce people to this loving atmosphere that you provide.
Oh, yeah, a little twist. I think that when people don't feel well, that they should come to some place that feels more like their living room in their home than to come into a doctor's office where everybody has on white coats and, clipboards in their hands and all of that kind of thing. And it's really sterile. Not that we're not clean. We are clean. However, back in the early 2000s, I started bringing my dogs to work with me. And it started out sort of by accident, because I had a dog pass away, and the one that was left at the house wasn't doing very well, and I wasn't ready for a puppy yet. So I decided that I would just bring him to the clinic with me. And from that, in about 2002 or something like that, we've always had dogs at the clinic, sometimes two. Right now we have one. We lost our little Leo, which was an Italian Greyhound, about a year and a half ago. But right now we have Cabo. He is a golden doodle, and he is a therapy dog, just in that he can show people how to really relax. He sleeps on his back. If you're not busy doing anything with your hands, he thinks that your hands should be used for rubbing his ears. And he sort of has a foot fetish for little kids that are barefoot and wants to lick their toes. Which can be kind of fun and kind of interesting all at the same time. But yeah, we have dogs. I think sometimes that people come in here as much for the companionship of dogs, and particularly the more seasoned generation. Maybe they've moved into a assisted living facility or someplace where they've had to leave their pets behind. And so not only do they get lots of one-on-one and special attention from us as a staff, but we call Cabo the office manager, because he can make somebody smile even if they don't want to.
I love it. It's really a full, all-encompassing type of an experience that you provide, Dr. Kathi. Now, let's talk about the people that travel to you from all over the country. I mean, this must be a very serious type of a situation. Maybe they're not getting the relief from their local market. They're unable to find what they need, to give them the relief of the pain, perhaps, where they're at. So they travel to see you. Let's talk about that a little bit, because, man, when you have pain, I mean, it's so hard. I mean, people that don't have pain don't really understand it. Let's talk about the pain. From your perspective, how debilitating can pain be in somebody's life?
I think it can be life-altering, life-changing, and in many cases, it makes people just want to not live anymore. And when they've been to this doctor and this specialist and that specialist, and they've gathered all kinds of stacks of information, but yet nobody's been able to pinpoint what's going on with that information, people are looking for those places where people will listen and take the information and then go one step further. That's functional wellness. It's how your body works. It's teaching people about your body. And from my perspective, the people that come from out of town, many of them, at least in the beginning, started because they had a family member that was local and was already my patient. So the family member would then say, hey, when you're here for Christmas break or when the kids are on spring break, why don't you come and see Dr. Kathi and see if maybe she can help you with some of your whatever it was. Now, those people have gone back and they're telling their friends and their friends. We have largely a referral-based practice, and I'm really proud about that because I think word of mouth is the very best advertising. And also it makes our job a little easier because when people come in here, they already know a little bit about what we do. Most of them all know about the dogs. And so it just makes it easier to interact and to be able to communicate effectively with people. But yeah, it's been kind of a thing. And now people are just finding us online and with the website and calling. And, you know, I've got people that are calling from out of state and want to come and want to know how long they should stay to get optimal benefit out of what we do. And at that point, can they go back to their chiropractor or their physician, wherever they're from? Most of the time in the beginning, depending on the severity of the situation, if people come in, I like for them to stay for a week. And during that week, we get about 7 to 10 visits, one-on-one of each other. It was difficult for a while because I was just so busy, but recently I've added another doctor who I've been mentoring for the last 2 years. And I'm really excited about that because that's going to really give us the opportunity to start flowing new patients again and to be able to help more people find out about what we do.
Yeah,
I also want to teach.
I love it. You're building a team. And of course, you have so many people in North Texas that come and see you. You have so many people that travel from other parts of the United States, but you also have patients that have traveled as far as from Canada and Mexico as well. So really, you're a go-to person in a lot of different ways. You know, when I think about chiropractic physicians, and I think about what you do, Dr. Kathi or Dr. Perry, I like calling you Dr. Kathi. I know that you have to stay strong yourself. I mean, what you do is very, very physical at times. And how does a chiropractor like you keep in the shape you need to be in to be able to stay strong and supportive for your clients as well?
Well, one of the things that's been kind of knocking on my door is that I need to do some things about what does Dr. Kathi do? And to make it more real that I'm just not telling people to do these things, but I actually do them in my own life on a daily basis, most days. I drink a ton of water. I think that's really important, and it just overall makes everything function better. I exercise, but not particularly in a gym. I have some equipment here within the clinic that is power plate, whole body vibration. And a 15-minute workout on a power plate will give you just about the same workout as you would have were you at the gym and doing a 45-minute to an hour workout. So it's become really handy for me to do that. Previous to this call, I was actually doing some paperwork and some kind of tedious things using my other side of my brain that I don't usually use. And I was like, wow, I'm going to go talk and I need to wake up. And so I went and got on the power plate for 5 minutes and just boom, here we go.
I love it. That power plate's a great way to go. Let's think about it just for a minute now, because we're coming through the pandemic. There's a lot of people that are having some mental and spiritual challenges right now coming through this. That's what they're saying, that there's almost, for some people, sort of a post-traumatic stress syndrome going on after what so many people have gone through. A lot of people know someone that, you know, has had a challenge with this COVID disease. How do you see it all laying out? Where does it go from here? How do people get their mental strength back to be able to get back in the pocket and continue to do the things that they want to do to have an empowering life?
Well, I think that one of the things that happened when we first went into this COVID experience now 2 years ago is that nobody really across the board looked at healthcare as not ever being available. And so as we went into COVID and people, either themselves or a loved one, maybe had to go to the hospital, they were in intensive care. Other people, friends and family, couldn't be there with them, so they didn't have anybody that could be their advocate in the hospital. And I think out of that, many people now are looking at it as, I have to be more proactive with my health, because if I'm not well, I can't do anything. I can't be there for anybody else. But nobody knows exactly how to do that because nobody was really interested in it before. But I have people that I haven't seen for 12, 15 years. They're calling up and going, we want to have an appointment with you. We don't just want an appointment. We want to get on your book regularly so that we can maintain and achieve whatever our optimum is. And we want some nutritional counseling, and we want to know what we can do just to make ourselves healthier and to be able to boost our immune systems. And, you know, a strong immune system is really the best defense against any kind of illness. And knowing those things to eat and drink and how to move and to get regular chiropractic adjustments so that your nervous system functions better. But I really think that people are waking up. We want to talk about people that are woke. I think that there's a huge movement with people to wake up and learn about their bodies and how they work, and they're looking for that information. Yeah, there's a ton of people that got really depressed during COVID and being locked up and not being able to associate with people. Excuse me. And I think, you know, people come in and they go, yeah, I've got the COVID-20. Well, they're referring to putting on 20 pounds while they've been locked up with COVID. And much of that came from comfort food eating and just not being able to get out and move around the way we were before. So I think that there's been a lot of need. I find a lot of people anyway, that require some emotional clearing work and identifying some of those factors that have contributed to them feeling like there's just no hope for this to ever be over. And what are we going to do? And when's the next round of everything coming? It's like Chicken Little and the sky is falling almost. And so, yeah, we do a lot of just listening to people talk. I think there's a lot of value in people being able to express themselves. And part of that's their stress. So it's a de-stressing situation, just to be able to identify and know what kinds of things stress my patients out.
Yeah, it's great advice. Of course, you always talk about eating right and getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise, you know, and of course you talk about staying, you know, optimally hydrated. I love that so much. I drink a lot of water myself, but still, I know you believe that people are really exposed on a daily basis to a lot of bad things. I mean, toxins and chemicals, pollutants. I mean, you know, emotional stressors. You have something that kind of came across the desk, you know, with regard to eliminating allergies and balancing people through a balancing therapy. Let's talk about that, because that was really fascinating and we found that remarkable.
Sure. Again, at the basis of all of that is nutritional sugar balancing control. If you don't have your sugar metabolism balanced so that it's not doing a roller coaster ride of, oh, it's high and now it's low and now it's high and now it's low, it's difficult to stabilize anybody's metabolic system and to get rid of their allergies. But we incorporate 2 or 3 different kinds of allergy elimination techniques. One of them is through total body modification, which is that big chart right behind me on the wall. And it's all about functional physiology and how the body really works and how it works together as systems. And we've used that for a number of years using kinesiology techniques. And I also have what's called an electrodermographic analysis that we do scans on. It reads what's called a galvanic skin response on the skin surface, and then has different digitized frequencies that come through a wrist strap, and the skin reacts to that vibrational frequency. So we can tell what kinds of things were that patient to come in contact with it. that they might potentially be extremely reactive to and to cause them, i.e. what they consider to be allergies. So then we treat those points through a series of acupuncture, auriculotherapy points over the ears, up and down the spine, and some other major acupuncture points. And it really reharmonizes that person's nervous system with the frequency of whatever that substance is. And oftentimes within just a few hours, somebody can have pretty severe allergy symptoms, and all of a sudden their sinuses will dry up. And the next time they're exposed to it, their reaction isn't nearly as severe as it was previously.
Wow, what great work. Of course, we know that you're one of the few certified matrix repatterning practitioners, and we need to talk about that. I mean, I tried to say that 3 times real quick before the interview. I couldn't do it, but this seems to be like a very, very important part of helping people with their therapy. It's a deeper type of a perhaps work done on the skeletal framework. Let's talk about that, because I found that to be very fascinating.
Sure. And that happens to be the last technique that I have just recently become certified in. It's been a 2-year process achieving that. And I found matrix because of a problem that I had of myself. I ride horses, and I had a horse fall with me back in 2017 and trapped my left leg underneath, and it took a little bit to get the horse up. Fortunately, nothing was broken, and I was only badly bruised, but my knee was swollen. Anyway, after another year or so, I started having problems with that knee, and I have access to top people all around the world, and nobody was making it any better. And so I was on one of my peer publications and professional journals, and I saw this little bitty ad at the bottom that said, "We can change the shape of bones." And I went, what? And so I went ahead and asked for some information, because I'm a seminar junkie as well. And turned out that in about 2.5, 3 weeks, there was going to be a class. Dr. Roth teaches up in Canada, and it was outside of Toronto in a little town called Markham. Not an easy place to get to when you live in north central Texas sometimes. So I went to the class, long story short, got worked on for 2.5 days. And when I came back to Texas, I had absolutely no pain in that knee, and I haven't had any since. So I was certified in it, but the certification process at the time was very lengthy and involved, and it just didn't work out. And so actually that's one of the blessings for me anyway that's come out of COVID, is that when that happened and they shut Canada down, that prohibited anybody from the United States being able to attend any of Dr. Roth's matrix classes. And so he put together this really, really tremendous online platform that goes for about 10 months with lots of support and lots of Zoom, and looking at, a coach that's just like eagle eyes on you while you're working on somebody on the table. That's one of the reasons this room is set up kind of in a really good way for doing this kind of thing, is because of that class. But it required case studies and doing all of the demonstrations and writing a thesis paper. And I wrote my thesis on the effects of matrix repatterning on metabolic function. And the lady that I did that paper on came in for musculoskeletal pain. And after several sessions, she came in and she goes, "Do you think this matrix stuff might be working on my thyroid?" And I was like, well, I just don't know. I don't have enough information yet to be able to say that. But I said, theoretically, when I break it down, I can see how that would work, because as the tissues become more fluid and you open up previous sites of injury, your cells are going to acquire more surface area for different kinds of substances that need to go into those receptor sites to be able to function. And so I said, sure, why not? And I said, so let's watch it. And she goes, well, I really feel like I need to cut my thyroid down. And I said, well, as a chiropractor, I can't tell you to do that. So you need to get with your OB-GYN or whoever gave that to you and just kind of work with them and see if you can find a better dose. Anyway, ultimately, in about 6 months, she completely got off her thyroid meds, and she had been taking like 120 milligrams a day plus. And not only that, but she had a lot of neurological dysfunctions, like she couldn't stand on her tiptoes. She certainly couldn't walk on her tiptoes. She couldn't close her eyes without falling over. She couldn't do a finger to nose test accurately. And as all of those other things were released via Matrix, all of a sudden her nervous system was able to function. And now she can do all of those things. And one of the people she recently referred into our clinic actually came in from Ohio, and he had been diagnosed with a shrinking brain syndrome. You know, I hate it when people hang diagnoses and names on things, because then people sometimes claim them and go, oh, it's mine, when in reality, whatever that is may just be a group of symptoms due to something we need to uncover. And it's not really that thing. It's just that you're in a state of dis-ease. And, you know, medical doctors have to call things something, which is sometimes beneficial, but sometimes it can be depressing for the patient, because they look up shrinking brain syndrome and go, oh my gosh, I'm on my way to Alzheimer's or being in a facility. And the fact was this man, he's in his 60s. When I asked him how many concussions he had, he was like, oh gosh, I can't even count how many concussions I've had. He was a defensive player for football for high school and a college team. And he goes, you know, back when I was playing football, the answer if you got knocked out on the field was they brought you to with smelling salts. They asked you what your name was. Do you know what day it is? Do you know where you're at? Great, get back in the game. You know, and nowadays that's pretty far from the truth, because there's a lot of care being taken to make sure that our kids don't end up with traumatic brain syndromes and injuries. But neither here nor there, he spent a week here with us. And at the end of the week, he could do things that he hadn't done for years. And when football season started, he was able to go to the local football game. And instead of sitting on the sidelines in a chair, he walked up and down the sidelines, and he was actually able to climb up and down the bleachers. And his sense of humor came back. He was able to communicate again. So that's part of what Matrix and some other techniques that I do are
incredible. That's that mind-body and body-mind connection. It's so important. Wow. You know, I know your table's going to be busy this afternoon. You have a lot of patients coming in. You've only cut out a certain amount of time for me, Dr. Kathi, but let's finish with one final question. Let's talk about entrepreneurship, because you've been through a lot. You've been at it for a long time. I mean, you're very well known in the field throughout the world. When we think about entrepreneurship, we have younger entrepreneurs watching the show. Sometimes they hit a tough time. Sometimes they hit a roadblock. What can you say to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show about what it takes to get through that tough time as an entrepreneur and come out the other side feeling great about the fact you came through it, and you came through it in flying colors?
Well, it is tough. When I came out of school, I worked with some other chiropractors for about a year. And after a year, I thought I was a big enough girl that I could take my little stack of patients and I could go down the street and open my own clinic. Thankfully, my background previous to being a chiropractor was in banking, and I've just been blessed with a lot of things that prepared me to be able to be a business owner and an entrepreneur. I think, though, that one of the things that I personally have to keep in mind, you know, when it gets tough, is to kind of remind myself that, you know, you didn't get here on your own. You had a lot of help from God, and He didn't bring you this far to dump me off now. So that's always my first thing. But just count on, you're going to have long hours. You're going to be the one that cleans the toilets and takes out the trash, and that returns the phone calls after everybody else has gone home because they've got kids and whatever. So just know that you're not just going to be that person that has that job. You're going to wear every single hat that needs to be done. And sometimes you get to take the hat off for a while and somebody else can wear it. But always know that you never know who's going to leave on the spur of a moment, who you're going to have to step in for. Learn every single thing about what you're doing, and then find that person to be able to delegate those things to, so that you know that they're being done and being done the way that they should be. but hopefully you're not the one doing them at 2:00 in the morning. Because I've been there. I've done the 2:00 in the morning thing. It's like feeding a baby, and I think that's kind of like how a business is and how it grows is hopefully you feed it on the front side and you put some things in place and you teach it appropriate behavior. And then when it grows up, you don't want to eat them. I think it's also important to find a mentor if you can. That's been one of the things that's been difficult for me to bring people into my practice is because we do so many different things that people start out and go, oh, yeah, I want to do all of this and I want to be just like you. And then they come in here and they realize what all they need to learn and how much work it is and that you can learn it all the way it's taught, but you can't necessarily make it work unless you have somebody working with you that can show you what to do when it doesn't work the way it was taught. And so I think that's what's been special about my relationship with Dr. Luke coming into the practice is that he came and watched me work because his dad was a patient of mine and became interested and he wanted to shadow me. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that. But if you want me to mentor you with the idea that you'll come into the practice when you graduate, then I'll entertain that. So that's how we did it. So as soon as he's a little bit more further along down the path, I'm going to back out a little bit and let him take some of the new patients. And I'm also going to put together some teaching material so I can produce more Dr. Luke soon.
Well, you've got a big next 20 years ahead of you. There's so many great things that are happening over there, Dr. Kathi. I mean, the Health by Hands Wellness Center is really just one of the leaders in the field. Of course, people come and they reach out to you. And one thing that's very exciting, they get to meet Cabo, of course, and Cabo is going to be, welcoming them in. I mean, you're just really doing what needs to happen to help people attain and retain lifelong vitality and longevity. And Dr. Kathi, it was so great to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much. I've got somebody knocking on my door right now.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show, Kathi.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.